In this section, we will look at how to use a stopper to transition across the river. This might be to navigate a pair of gates, such as a down to down or down to up, where one gate is situated above and at one end of the stopper and the second below and at the other. We'll identify the four most common approaches and their strengths and weaknesses. The technique an athlete chooses may in part be due to the shape and angle of the stopper, but in theory, if it's square across the river, the drop into it isn't too steep, it possesses a reasonable eddy on top and a curl on either end, then all four techniques should be possible. Although the four headings used maybe aren't universally recognised, they offer a good descriptor and help differentiate between the techniques. It isn't uncommon to observe a top athlete using a blend of these. This technique, like the others, uses the stopper to move the boat across the river, but unlike the feed in and rise up and lift and ride on technique, it concludes with the boat running along the face and out of the end, opposed to across the eddy. In circumstances where the eddy formed on top of the stopper isn't very big or stable and the face is reasonably tall, then this approach can be both consistent and quick. The ideal setting to practice this competence is by using a stopper that sits square across the river, the drop into it isn't too steep, it has a reasonable eddy on top and preferably a curl on either end. The further accurate positioning of two gates, one situated a few metres above one end of the stopper, with the second, an up or a down, situated a few metres below the opposite end, will create a more authentic setting and guide the boat's movement and path. The lead gate should be positioned so the athlete is forced to make the essential movement across the river. From a safety perspective, it is essential to know in advance that any stopper utilised for this type of practice can be exited before engaging with it. The athlete would approach the stopper in a similar way as in the lift and ride on, with good movement in the desired direction and a set and lift to appropriately position the bows onto the mid-face. Set and lift is explained in the conservation of speed video. However, this time they will move towards the stopper from a shallower entry angle before lifting the bows off the upstream blade, which will also drive the hips across the river. The bows would then bounce back into the stopper, carrying the speed across its face and out of the end. For the best execution, the approach angle should be as shallow as possible, with good cross-stream movement to reduce the downstream momentum and enhance the bounce back into the stopper. Accurate positioning of the bows onto the mid-face is also key to ensure they bounce back opposed to ride over. So now let's have another look at that in its entirety.